Commander Ethan Mercer stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel as it approached the massive space station. The structure gleamed like a jewel against the darkness of space, its spiral arms extending outward like a metallic flower in bloom. This was Nexus Prime, the heart of the Galactic Empire and seat of the Imperial Council. "Nervous?" Lieutenant Olivia Carter asked, coming to stand beside him. "Wouldn't you be?" Mercer replied, straightening his uniform. "First contact was one thing. This is different. Today we're discussing terms." Humanity had discovered they weren't alone in the universe just 18 months ago when an Imperial scout ship entered Earth's solar system. Now Mercer was Earth's chosen representative, tasked with securing humanity's place among the stars. The ship docked with a soft thud. Mercer and Carter led the small human delegation through the airlock. They were greeted by tall, blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms and large almond-shaped eyes. "Welcome, humans," said the tallest of the aliens. "I am Zorax, High Chancellor of the Galactic Imperial Council. We are pleased to welcome your species into our community." Mercer bowed slightly. "The people of Earth are honored by your welcome, High Chancellor." The delegation was escorted through wide corridors, filled with beings of every shape and color. Some floated rather than walked. Others moved on multiple legs or tentacles. Carter, trained in xenoanthropology, watched everything with sharp eyes. The council chamber was a vast dome with seating for thousands. Representatives from 100 worlds turned to stare as the humans entered. Mercer felt the weight of their gaze, but kept his back straight and his expression calm. High Chancellor Zorax introduced Earth to the gathered representatives. "These humans come from a small but resource-rich world. Their technology is primitive compared to ours, but they learn quickly. They have achieved space travel within their own system and show great potential." The trade negotiations lasted for hours. The Empire offered faster-than-light travel technology in exchange for Earth minerals and cultural artifacts. Mercer noticed how the council members leaned forward with interest when Earth's resources were discussed, but seemed to lose interest when human art and music were mentioned. "We accept these terms," Mercer finally said. "Earth will provide the requested resources, and in return, we look forward to learning from your advanced civilization." A celebration followed the signing of the agreement. Alien foods and drinks were served. Strange music filled the air. Through it all, Carter moved through the crowd, listening and observing. Later, in their private quarters, she shared her concerns with Mercer. "Something isn't right," she said. "I studied their historical records before we came. There are gaps, entire species that just disappear from the narrative." Mercer frowned. "You think they're hiding something. I think we should be careful. Very careful." Miles away in the private chambers of the High Council, Zorax met with his inner circle. "The humans suspect nothing," he said, his 4 arms gesturing in satisfaction. "They believe our story completely." "Are they truly as resourceful as our scouts reported?" asked a counselor with gray skin and 6 eyes. "It matters not," Zorax replied. "Their world is rich with minerals we need. Their colonies will provide excellent outposts for our continued expansion." "And when they have served their purpose?" asked another. Zorax made a dismissive gesture, "The same as all the others. Integration or elimination. They will either become loyal subjects of the Empire or they will be removed. It has always been our way." "They seem proud for such a young species," observed the gray counselor. Zorax's mouth stretched into what passed for a smile among his kind. "Pride makes them predictable. They believe themselves special, unique. They will learn, as all others have, that in this galaxy there is only the Empire." The counselors laughed, unaware that their empire would soon face its greatest challenge. For they had made a critical error. They had judged humans by their technology, not by their spirit. And in doing so, they had unknowingly signed their own death warrant. 5 years passed since humanity joined the Galactic Empire. Earth had established 3 colony worlds: Nova Terra, New Eden, and Horizon. Imperial technology helped humans travel between stars, and Earth's economy boomed from the new trade routes. Dr. Ryan Walsh watched the alien engineers work on the defense system. As Earth's leading physicist, he had been chosen to work with the Empire on joint security projects. The current project was a planetary shield that would protect human colonies from asteroids and space debris. "The calibration is off by 0.3%, Walsh said, pointing to the display. The alien engineer, a thin creature with pale green skin named Kelth, nodded and adjusted the settings. Walsh noticed something odd about the power flow diagrams. The system was drawing more energy than needed for a simple defensive shield. He had seen this pattern before, in weapons systems. Later that day, he sent a message to Admiral Kate Donovan. "The new shields have dual functions. I think they can be turned against us." Donovan received Walsh's message in her office on the Earth Defense Fleet headquarters. She frowned. This wasn't the first troubling report. 3 merchant ships had been stopped by Imperial patrols near Nova Terra last month. The captains were told they needed special permits to travel in what was supposed to be open space. She opened her secure terminal and accessed a growing file labeled Incidents. The list was getting longer each week. Commander Mercer, now Earth's ambassador to the Empire, was having his own problems. He sat across from an Imperial official named Javix, whose 6 eyes blinked in an unreadable pattern. "These reports of resource theft from our colony on Horizon are very concerning," Mercer said. "Theft is a serious accusation, Ambassador," Javix replied. "Perhaps your colonists simply miscounted their supplies." 3,000 tons of titanium doesn't simply get miscounted, Mercer said, and the surveillance feeds were disabled during the time in question. Equipment malfunctions happen, especially human equipment, Javik said with what passed for a smile among his species. Mercer kept his face neutral despite his anger. This was the 3rd time his concerns had been dismissed. He was beginning to see a pattern. On New Eden, Lieutenant Carter, now Major Carter, led a survey team to document the growing Imperial military presence. What had begun as a small security outpost had expanded into a full base. Imperial ships arrived daily, bringing troops and equipment. "They said this was for joint defense exercises," said Sergeant Allen, who was assisting Carter. "But I haven't seen any joint exercises, and they've restricted access to the northern continent entirely." "Document everything," Carter replied, "and be careful who you talk to." Dr. Walsh was in his lab when the message arrived. An official invitation to visit the Imperial Research Center on Nexus Prime. The wording was polite, but Walsh knew a summons when he saw one. Refusing wasn't an option. He activated his emergency protocol before packing. If he didn't check in every 24 hours, his private research would automatically be sent to Donovan and Carter. President Laura Martinez sat in the Oval Office, reviewing reports from all 3 colonies. The Empire had seemed like humanity's ticket to the stars. Now she wasn't so sure. Her secure phone rang. It was Donovan. "Madam President, Dr. Walsh has been taken to Nexus Prime, and I've just received word that Imperial ships are moving into position near all 3 colonies. Is it time for Phoenix?" Martins asked quietly. "Not yet, but soon. Walsh left us something. We're decrypting it now." On Nexus Prime, High Chancellor Zorax addressed the Inner Council. "The humans are becoming suspicious. We must accelerate our timeline. Their resistance will be brief. They lack the weapons or experience to oppose us." One counselor spoke up. "What of their resourcefulness? Our studies suggest they adapt quickly." "Studies based on their primitive conflicts with themselves," Zorax said dismissively. "Against the full might of the Empire, they will surrender within days." The Gray Counselor looked doubtful, but said nothing more. Zorax didn't notice. He was too busy planning humanity's subjugation. Dr. Ryan Walsh knew he had little time. The Imperial Guards would arrive soon to escort him to the research facility. He connected his personal device to the secure terminal and began the upload. The data he had collected over 5 years told a disturbing story. The Empire had done this before, dozens of times. They would welcome a new species, share technology, establish bases on their worlds, and then, when the moment was right, strike. Some species were enslaved. Others were wiped out completely. The pattern was always the same. His device beeped. Upload complete. The encrypted data was now on its way to Admiral Donovan. Walsh took a deep breath as his door chimed. The guards had arrived. Commander Mercer and Major Carter traveled to the neutral trading station Epsilon 6. They had arranged to meet with a representative from the Crawl, a species that had joined the Empire 30 years before humans. The Crawl were once a proud people, said the alien, who called himself Traz. His scaled skin was dull gray, and one of his 4 eyes was clouded. We ruled 12 worlds. Now we serve in Imperial factories and mines. Why are you telling us this? Carter asked. Because the same fate awaits you, Traz said. The Empire has begun moving warships to your borders. We have heard the orders. Before Mercer could ask more questions, alarms blared. Imperial troops stormed into the station's bar where they were meeting. Commander Ethan Mercer, you are under arrest for conspiracy against the Empire, announced the lead soldier. Mercer reached for his sidearm, but energy blasts hit the table. Carter pulled him down as shots flew overhead. Traz wasn't so lucky. A blast caught him in the chest, and he fell. On Earth, Admiral Donovan received Walsh's data package. She immediately called an emergency meeting with President Martinez and the Joint Chiefs. The evidence is clear, Donovan said, displaying the files Walsh had sent. The Empire has conquered or destroyed 17 species in the last century alone. They're not allies. They're predators. President Martinez's face was grim. And now they're coming for us. The first reports are already coming in, said General Hank Spencer. Imperial ships have entered orbit around Nova Terra. They're claiming it's a training exercise. Donovan's aide rushed in with a message. Admiral, we've lost contact with Commander Mercer's ship, and we're getting distress calls from all 3 colonies. They're under attack. Martinez stood. Activate Phoenix Protocol. Now. On Nexus Prime, Walsh was strapped to an examination table. High Chancellor Zorax himself entered the room. Dr. Walsh, Zorax said, his 4 arms moving in complex patterns. You've been quite busy. Accessing restricted files. Sending messages to Earth. You've been planning this from the start, Walsh said. The alliance was a lie. Not a lie. A convenience, Zorax replied. Your species provided useful resources and testing grounds. Now you will provide information. Tell me about Earth's defenses. Walsh smiled. You have no idea what you've done. Zorax signaled to the technician, who pressed a button. Pain shot through Walsh's body. Everyone breaks eventually, Zorax said. On Nova Terra, Imperial troops marched through the streets of the main settlement. Humans were rounded up and forced into holding areas. Colonel Frank Winters watched from his hidden position in the hills outside the city. His communicator beeped. Colonel, this is Admiral Donovan. Phoenix is active. Implement scorched earth. Understood, Winters replied. He turned to his team. You heard her. No Imperial gets their hands on our tech, and no human gets left behind. In orbit around Earth, the planetary defense grid came online. Hidden weapons platforms, built in secret using both human ingenuity and stolen Imperial technology, emerged from concealed positions on the Moon and in asteroid fields. President Martinez addressed the emergency session of the United Earth Government. Today, the Galactic Empire revealed its true face, she said. They believed we would be easy prey. They believed we would surrender. They were wrong. Humanity will not bow. Humanity will not break. And when this is over, the Empire will understand exactly what it means to betray the human race. 3 months after the Imperial attack, the galaxy was at war. The Empire had quickly overrun New Eden and Horizon. Only Nova Terra still held out, transformed into a fortress under Colonel Frank Winters' command. Winters looked over the makeshift war room carved deep into Nova Terra's northern mountains. Maps and displays showed Imperial troop movements across the continent. "They're bringing in more troops," said Lieutenant Susan Garcia, pointing to red dots on the screen. "Third time this week." "Good," Winters said. "Every soldier they send here is one less attacking Earth." The Empire had expected an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves in a grinding war against an enemy who refused to fight by the rules. Humans used the terrain, fought at night, set traps, and melted away before Imperial forces could respond. The Empire controlled the cities, but little else. On Earth, Admiral Kate Donovan stood in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room buzzed with activity as officers tracked battles across the solar system. "Imperial fleet approaching Mars defense perimeter," called out an officer. Donovan nodded. "Activate the minefields. Let's give them a warm welcome." Earth's defense had shocked the Empire. Hidden weapons, ships built in secret, and tactics the aliens had never seen before slowed their advance. But everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the Empire's superior numbers prevailed. President Martinez entered the command center. "Admiral, it's time for Project Retribution." "Are you sure, Madam President? Once we reveal it, the Empire will know what we're capable of." "They already underestimated us once," Martinez said. "Let's hope they do it again." In a hidden shipyard inside the asteroid belt, engineers put the finishing touches on humanity's first true warship. Built using reverse-engineered Imperial technology and human innovation, the EDF Retribution was unlike anything Earth had produced before. On Novaterra, a small ship slipped through the Imperial blockade under cover of darkness. It landed in a hidden valley where Colonel Winters waited. The ship's door opened, revealing Major Olivia Carter. She looked thinner and had a fresh scar across her cheek, but her eyes burned with determination. "Colonel," she said, saluting, "I bring news and plans." Inside the base, Carter shared what she had learned during her escape from Imperial custody. "The Empire has a fatal flaw," she explained, pointing to schematics on her device. "Their communication network relies on standardized protocols. If we can disrupt them, their forces can't coordinate." Winters smiled. "How soon can we implement this?" "We already have," Carter replied. "Earth has begun broadcasting interference signals. That's how I got through the blockade." On Nexus Prime, High Chancellor Zorax faced angry questions from the Imperial Council. "You promised a swift victory," said a counselor from the mineral-rich Tarkos system. "Instead, we have a costly war. The humans are more resourceful than expected," Zorax admitted, "but they cannot win. We control 2 of their colonies. Earth is next." "What of Novaterra? 3 months and still no victory." "A minor annoyance," Zorax said. "Colonel Winters and his rebels will be crushed soon." An aide rushed in with a message. Zorax read it, his skin turning a pale shade of blue. "What is it?" demanded the Tarkos counselor. "The human prison camp on Horizon. All the Imperial guards were found dead this morning. The prisoners are gone." In the forests of Horizon, Admiral Donovan led 50 Special Forces soldiers away from the camp. With them were 300 freed human prisoners. "Keep moving," she ordered. "We reached the rendezvous point by dawn." One of the freed prisoners, a young man with haunted eyes, asked, "How did you get past their security?" Donovan smiled grimly. "They think they know us. They think we fight like they do, with big ships and direct attacks. They don't understand that humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know things about war they've never imagined." As if to emphasize her point, explosions lit up the night sky behind them. The Imperial base they had just left was burning. Its ammunition depot turned into a towering inferno. The Empire was learning a costly lesson. Humans were far more dangerous than they had ever anticipated. Dr. Ryan Walsh worked in his prison laboratory on Nexus Prime. Imperial guards watched his every move, but they didn't understand what they were seeing. For 6 months, he had pretended to cooperate while secretly working against his captors. "The shield modifications are complete. Walsh told the Imperial scientists supervising him. The energy output is now 15% more efficient. The alien scientist, a tall being with translucent skin named Vex, examined the readings. Excellent. High Chancellor Zorax will be pleased. What Vex didn't know was that Walsh had added a hidden flaw in the code. Under specific conditions, the shield would fail completely. Walsh had been doing this with every project they forced him to work on. At night, alone in his cell, Walsh worked on his true project. Using parts stolen from the lab, he built a small device. Line by line, he coded a virus designed to infect the Imperial mainframe. Just a little more time, he whispered to himself. The EDF Retribution emerged from hyperspace near the occupied colony of New Eden. Captain Greg Parker stood on the bridge of humanity's most advanced warship. All stations report ready, said his first officer. Begin the attack, Parker ordered. Remember, our priority is the prison complex. The Retribution moved toward the planet, its advanced stealth systems hiding it from Imperial sensors until it was too late. When the Imperial ships finally detected the vessel, it was already launching fighters and firing its main weapons. The colony's defenses, built by humans but controlled by the Empire, should have been formidable. But they failed to activate properly. Unknown to the Imperials, they were experiencing the effects of Walsh's sabotage. On Nova Terra, Colonel Winters met with Major Carter and a strange visitor, a non-human alien with feathery skin and 6 limbs. This is Kira, Carter explained. She's from the Avari people. They were conquered by the Empire 50 years ago. The humans are not alone in hating the Empire, Kira said in careful English. Many species wait for a chance to break free. Winters looked skeptical. Why come to us? We're barely holding on ourselves. Because you fight differently, Kira replied. The Empire doesn't know how to respond. And now other worlds are watching. Learning. Carter activated a holographic display showing galactic news feeds. Reports of rebellions on a dozen Imperial worlds scrolled past. It's beginning, she said. The Empire is facing resistance everywhere. On Earth, President Martinez met with representatives from 7 alien species in a top-secret location. Each had managed to escape their conquered worlds to reach Earth. The Liberty Coalition, Martinez said, looking around the table, united by a common enemy and a desire for freedom. The humans have proven themselves worthy allies, said Draz, a reptilian being from the Soren Collective. Your resistance has inspired others. Together, we can share knowledge, tactics, and resources, Martinez said. The Empire is powerful because it stands alone. It forces others to submit or be destroyed. We will be different. We will stand together. On Nexus Prime, High Chancellor Zorax faced the Imperial Council again. The mood was tense. The human warship attacked 3 more outposts this week, said a counselor. How is this possible? You said their technology was primitive. They have been developing weapons in secret, Zorax said angrily, and they have been sabotaging our systems. Perhaps we should consider peace talks, suggested a counselor from the inner worlds. This war is becoming costly. Peace. Zorax slammed all 4 hands on the table. With savages, never. I have authorized the use of prohibited weapons. We will make an example of Nova Terra. The resistance ends now. As the council meeting ended, Zorax didn't notice the small maintenance droid cleaning the council chamber. Inside it, Walsh's virus began to spread through the Imperial network. Silently, invisibly, waiting for the signal to activate. The Empire had awakened something dangerous in humanity, a ruthless determination to survive, no matter the cost. The Liberty Coalition gathered on the EDF Retribution. Representatives from 8 species sat around a large table as President Martinez laid out her plan. We strike together, she said, pointing to a holographic map of Imperial space. Coordinated attacks against key military installations across the galaxy. My people can disable the fuel depots in the Centauri sector, said Draz, the Soran representative. The Avari will target communication relays, added Kira. Without communications, their fleet cannot coordinate. The plan was bold. Some might call it foolish. But after 9 months of Imperial occupation, bold was all they had left. Major Carter studied ancient records found in a hidden library on Novaterra. The scrolls and data crystals told an unexpected story. "Colonel Winters, you need to see this," she called. Winters joined her at the viewing table. "What am I looking at?" "Evidence that humans encountered the Empire thousands of years ago," Carter explained, pointing to symbols that matched both Earth hieroglyphics and Imperial script. "They came to Earth, tried to conquer us, and failed. Then they erased it from their history. Why would they hide that?" "Because they lost," Carter said. "These records suggest ancient humans drove them off using methods the Empire couldn't counter." This discovery gave the Resistance new hope. If their ancestors had defeated the Empire once before, perhaps they could do it again. On Nexus Prime, Dr. Walsh saw his opportunity. The Imperial guards were distracted by an alarm in another section. He quickly accessed the main terminal and sent the activation code for his virus. Then he returned to his work as if nothing had happened. Hours later, chaos erupted. Security doors malfunctioned. Communication systems failed. Defense grids went offline and came back with wrong settings. In the confusion, Walsh slipped away from his lab. He knew the station layout by heart after months of studying stolen blueprints. He headed for the technical archives. Inside, he found what he was looking for: the complete schematics for the Empire's most advanced weapon systems. He downloaded everything onto a small device, then set explosive charges around the room. As alarms blared throughout the station, Walsh made his way to the shuttle bay. The virus had done its job, creating so much chaos that no one noticed one more alert about an unauthorized shuttle launch. Commander Ethan Mercer led a group of human and alien fighters through the streets of New Eden's capital city. They moved silently, using the sewers and maintenance tunnels to avoid Imperial patrols. "The governor's mansion is ahead," whispered Ali, a resistance fighter who had once been a city planner. "That's where they're keeping the control systems for the orbital defense grid." Mercer nodded. "Remember, we need the access codes intact. Don't damage the main computer." The attack was swift and precise. The Imperial guards, confused by communications problems caused by Walsh's virus, were quickly overwhelmed. Mercer reached the main control room and began the process of reclaiming the colony's defenses. "Send the signal," he ordered. "Tell Earth we've taken back the system." On 7 worlds across the galaxy, similar attacks unfolded. The Liberty Coalition struck with perfect coordination, targeting the structures of Imperial power. High Chancellor Zorax raged as reports of rebellion poured in. His private chambers shook as he threw objects against the walls. "How is this happening?" he demanded of his terrified aides. "How can primitives challenge the might of the Empire?" "Chancellor," one brave aide ventured, "intelligence suggests the humans are sharing their tactics with other species. The Saurans, the Avari, even the Kraul are rising up. Use the planet killers," Zorax ordered. "Target Novaterra first. Make an example of them." The aide paled. "But Chancellor, those weapons are forbidden by Imperial law." "I am Imperial law," Zorax shouted. "Do it now before I have you executed for treason." Unknown to Zorax, his orders were being recorded and transmitted throughout the Empire. His words reached not just military commanders, but ordinary citizens on thousands of worlds. People who had been told the Empire stood for order and peace now saw its true face. 1 year into the war, the galaxy had changed. Dozens of Imperial worlds had declared independence and joined the Liberty Coalition. The Empire, once seeming unstoppable, now fought desperately to hold its remaining territory. Dr. Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of the EDF Retribution beside Admiral Donovan, watching as the fleet prepared for the Battle of Proxima Centauri. After his escape from Nexus Prime, Walsh had used the stolen schematics to develop new weapons for the Coalition. "The Disruptor is ready," Walsh said, pointing to a small device connected to the ship's main computer. Once activated, it will shut down Imperial shields within a 5 light-minute radius. And they won't be able to counter it? Donovan asked. Not for at least 6 hours. By then, it will be too late. The battle began at dawn, Earth time. Coalition ships emerged from hyperspace around the Imperial fortress world of Proxima Centauri. The Imperial fleet responded instantly, moving to intercept. Activate the disruptor, Donovan ordered. Walsh pressed the sequence. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, across the battlefield, Imperial ships suddenly lost their shields. Coalition weapons, previously barely effective against Imperial defenses, now cut through the enemy vessels like knives through paper. On Nexus Prime, High Chancellor Zorax received news of the disaster at Proxima Centauri. The Imperial stronghold had fallen in less than a day. 7 capital ships destroyed. Thousands of troops captured. This cannot be happening, Zorax muttered. He turned to enter his private chambers when a sharp pain pierced his back. He looked down to see a blade protruding from his chest. The Council sends its regards, whispered his personal guard as Zorax collapsed. News of Zorax's assassination spread quickly through Imperial space. 3 Council members immediately claimed leadership. The Empire, already weakened by external enemies, now faced civil war. On New Eden, Commander Mercer led the final push to liberate the colony. Imperial troops, cut off from reinforcements and supplies, fought desperately but were overwhelmed by human forces supported by local resistance fighters. Mercer stood in the central plaza as the last Imperial flags were taken down. A year ago, he had been a diplomat, believing in peaceful cooperation. Now he was a battle-hardened commander. The colony is secure, reported his second-in-command. All Imperial forces have surrendered or been eliminated. What about the civilian collaborators? Mercer asked. Being processed according to coalition guidelines. Fair trials, no summary executions. Mercer nodded. We're better than them. We need to remember that. Major Carter continued her research into humanity's ancient encounter with the Empire. Working with historians and scientists from other species, she uncovered a shocking truth. The Empire has been lying to its own people for millennia, she explained to President Martins during a secure transmission. Their official history claims they brought peace and order to the galaxy. In reality, they've been conquering and exploiting species since before humans developed agriculture. Can we use this? Martins asked. We already are, Carter replied. We're broadcasting the truth on all frequencies. Imperial citizens are learning their entire society is built on lies. The effects were immediate. Protests erupted on core Imperial worlds. Military units refused orders. Supply ships diverted course to coalition territories. In a secure facility on Earth, Walsh worked with a team of scientists from 7 species to develop the ultimate weapon against the Empire. A device that could remotely disable all Imperial technology within a star system. We're close, Walsh told Colonel Winters, who had returned to Earth to oversee the final phase of Operation Phoenix. 1 more week, and it will be ready. Will it work on Imperius Prime? Winters asked, referring to the Imperial homeworld. Walsh nodded. Their entire defense grid will shut down. They won't be able to stop us. As the Coalition fleet prepared for the final assault on Imperius Prime, Imperial citizens began to rebel against their own government. The Empire, which had stood for 10,000 years, was collapsing from within and without. The day of reckoning had nearly arrived. Imperius Prime, the heart of the Empire, glowed like a jewel in the darkness of space. For 10,000 years, it had been the center of power for a civilization that spanned thousands of worlds. Now it faced the greatest threat in its history. The Liberty Coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace just outside the massive defense grid. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, led by the humans who had sparked this revolution. On the bridge of the EDF Retribution, President Martinez stood with Admiral Donovan, Dr. Walsh, and Major Carter. Begin the psychological operation, Martins ordered. Carter nodded and activated a special broadcast. Across Imperius Prime, on every screen and communication device, the faces of ordinary Imperial citizens appeared. People who had discovered the truth about their empire. People who had joined the rebellion. They told their stories in their own words. We were told the Empire protected us. We never knew about the conquered worlds. They lied to us about everything. The broadcast was Carter's idea, a way to show that this wasn't just an invasion, it was liberation. In the Imperial Palace, the 3 council members who had been fighting for control watched in horror as their defense fleet began to break apart. Some ships joined the coalition. Others simply fled. Activate the planetary shield, ordered Councillor Vex, who had taken Zorax's place as leader. Nothing happened. The shield isn't responding, reported a terrified technician. In the coalition fleet, Dr. Walsh smiled as he monitored his device. The virus is working. Their entire system is shutting down. For months, the virus he had planted in the Imperial mainframe had been spreading. Waiting. Now it had reached every corner of the Imperial network. Colonel Winters led the ground forces as they landed outside the capital city. There was little resistance. Most Imperial troops had either surrendered or deserted. Move quickly, Winters ordered his soldiers. Secure the main government buildings. Remember, we want prisoners, not martyrs. The final battle for Imperius Prime was strangely quiet. A few die-hard Imperial units fought to the end, but most laid down their weapons when faced with overwhelming coalition forces. President Martinez entered the Imperial Senate chamber escorted by Admiral Donovan and a squad of soldiers. The remaining council members sat at their table, faces grim. You have lost, Martinez said simply. The Empire is finished. What are your terms? Asked Councillor Vex, his voice hollow. The Empire will be dissolved. All conquered worlds will be given independence. War criminals will face justice, Martinez replied. But civilians will not be punished for the crimes of their leaders. There will be no genocide, no mass executions, no revenge. The councillors looked shocked. They had expected the same brutality they themselves had shown to conquered peoples. Why show mercy? Asked one councillor. After what we did to your colonies. Because we are not you, Martinez said. We build. We don't destroy. 5 years later, Commander Ethan Mercer stood on a hill overlooking the new capital city of the Galactic Commonwealth, where once the Imperial Palace had dominated the skyline. Now a diverse collection of buildings represented the many species who had joined together to build something new. Dr. Walsh joined him, looking older but more at peace. Hard to believe it's been 5 years since the fall. Harder to believe how much we've accomplished, Mercer replied. The Commonwealth has already expanded to include 30 more worlds, all joining freely. The humans taught us something important, said Kira, the Avari representative who had approached them. That diversity is strength, not weakness. On Earth, a new monument stood in the center of the United Nations Plaza, a simple stone pillar with names of those lost in the Imperial War. At its base, words that had become the Commonwealth's motto. Never again will the stars witness such betrayal. The Empire had believed humans would be easy prey. They had expected surrender when faced with superior technology and numbers. Instead, they found a species that refused to be conquered, that fought with surprising cunning, and that united others in a cause greater than themselves. The Empire had signed its own death warrant the day it betrayed humanity, and the galaxy was better for it.